My name is Elena Karmadanova. I am an illustrator and artist from Russia, but currently I live in Canada. I perceive war as a personal tragedy because it affects my family in Ukraine, my friends from Ukraine, and of course, war leads to countless deaths that cannot be undone and forgiven. As a deeply sensitive and empathetic individual, I find it extremely difficult to cope with the military aggression of my native country. I created this project to support people like myself, those who did not choose this war, those who are afraid to express their protest openly. I want to show that we are not alone and that propaganda deliberately tries to convince us that we are a minority. I believe that only unity can help to stop the war and develop democratic society and support humanistic values. After the initial shock of the war subsided, I was troubled by why I couldn't reach out to my loved ones and why a barrier had formed between us. The answer was on the surface. It's propaganda. So I depicted how a person watches propaganda and gradually becomes accustomed to believing what is said on TV. In the right side of the diptych, I decided to depict the final state of a person who has entrusted the formation of their opinion to propagandists. After illustrating the reasons for the rift in my family, I decided to find out how others experienced it. I started with a survey asking my compatriots how they felt when the war began. I collected over 60 responses and 99% described profound feelings of fear, mourning, and despair. I tried to depict these feelings in various ways, but it didn't turn out quite right. So I decided to search for ideas in my subconscious. Every night before sleep, I studied the works of the artists such as Kurt Schwitters, André Masson, Max Ernst, Odilon Redon, James Ensor, Kathy Kollwitz, Alfreda Liu-Wechmer, Hannah Hodge, Filonov, and Malevich. And in the morning, I sketched the ideas that came to mind immediately upon waking. This went on for several months until I felt that I had found the visual images I needed. And thus, I ended up with these outcomes. Caught in a loop, you must see. Doom scrolling, disturbed mind, and make friends make friends. In the first year of the war, I experienced a profound feeling of shame. I took on a huge burden of responsibility, much more than I could realistically bear. To some extent, I even hated my Russianness. But in the process of working on the project, I realized that my national identity is a significant part of who I am, and it will never change. Attempts to deny it would only lead me into deep depression. Hence, my project took a new turn. I depicted my internal struggle and crisis of national identity in the diptych Russian dress. Next, working with symbols closely associated with Russia, I began to study the art of painting Matryoshka dolls. Thus, the idea arose to create several sets. The first idea came to me when I tried to analyze the history of my family along the female line. I asked my great-grandmother to share the story of my family as well as the photos, and I studied them for some time. Like many others, my family has had a difficult fate. Each generation survived in conditions of wars, revolutions, and scarcity, and I became the first to dare to change my life and leave Russia. I depicted my family as Matryoshka dolls with the year of birth instead of faces, as a reminder to myself of how long the trauma of generations lasts and that I need to try to stop this tendency. To emphasize the division in society and family, as well as to reflect the duality and uncertainty of feelings towards my country, I created two sets of conflicting Matryoshka dolls. One set, holding power and resources, supports military aggression, while the other, often having no power, but protests against the war. For me, this is another reminder of how complex emotions towards one's homeland can be, because alongside blatant villains, they are very brave and good people. Because alongside blatant villains, they're very brave and good people who sacrifice themselves for universal values and honor. Summing up my work, I felt that I wanted to express one more important thought and also work with the exhibition space. I decided to hang clothes on clotheslines with my sketches, not only as a nostalgic reminder from childhood of the manual labor of women in my family, but also as a symbol that women in Russia, in a sense, will have to figuratively wash off all the horror and to deal with consequences of the war that will fall on the country and on their shoulders when the war ends. And it will end someday.